Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're going to be reading chapter 3 and How to Use the Power of Prayer by Joseph Murphy. And in this chapter, we're going to be talking about mental poisons, or the things that others say and how we allow them to affect us, and the things we tell ourselves. And then we're going to be talking about their antidotes. So let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully we can take something away from this. The author is going to suggest something that might seem a little bit odd to many people, in that what other people say only affects you when you give it permission to, and that your thoughts on others, especially if you're thinking negatively about them, are your own thoughts that you have placed in there, as they're not responsible, whomever the party is, are not responsible for your thoughts. So I ask you to keep an open mind as I read this, because I promise you, if you don't give away your power the way that perhaps you do, and you don't allow things to affect you maybe the way that you do at this moment, you will see a huge shift in your happiness and in your genuine joy and in your perspective on life and on your perspective on others. So let's go ahead and get started. Right mental attitude induces healing. There are mental as well as physical poisons. Mental poisons are wrong thoughts which work underground in consciousness, like a contaminated stream, to emerge even after years in wrong experiences, otherwise known as illness, loss, unhappiness, etc. I read some time ago of a scientific experiment in Russia in which 6 hypnotized and conditioned cats were given cyanide of potassium with no fatal effects, while 6 other unconditioned animals all died. If we had enough faith in the subjective power of God within ourselves, we could nullify all deadly poisons, mental and otherwise. What is the prophylaxis, or what is the preventative? The first step is to not be afraid of the cancer, the tuberculosis, arthritis, or mental disorders from this moment. The second step is to realize that the condition is the product of false thinking and will have no more power to continue its existence. Then you are exalting the God in the midst of you. This will stop all toxicity in you or the person for whom you are praying. Pronounce the condition false and exalt God by seeing the perfect solution, the beauty and wholeness made manifest where the trouble is. Among the most deadly mental poisons are the following: fear, hatred, self-pity, resentment, envy, vengeance, loneliness, and melancholy. All these are modifications of fear. The biblical name for fear is a blind, false thought called Goliath. The word Goliath means an aggressive, domineering thought or an idea that brags about its power, intimidates, bullies, browbeats, and frightens you into submission to its unrighteous reign. Perhaps you are afraid to meet this intruder in your mind. Maybe you are afraid of the results and you hesitate to meet this sinister shadow openly and rout him out. It is necessary to play the role of David in order to get rid of this intruder called fear. David means a man who loves God, who knows there is only one sovereign power which moves as a unity and knows no divisions or quarrels, and whose name is love. David, which is your awareness of the presence and power of God, killed the Philistine giant called Goliath, or fear, with the stone thrown from his shepherd's sling. Fear is a shadow of the mind held by ignorance and darkness. When you hold your fear to the light of reason and intelligence, it can't stand the light and it disappears. Among the offspring of fear are the following: hatred, which is really inverted or misdirected love based on ignorance; self-pity, which is really self-absorption. This mental poison creeps through the psychic bloodstream, poisoning the springs of hope and faith, leading to dementia, melancholia, etc. The antidote is to find your other self, or God, and become intoxicated by realizing your love of God and your sense of union with the one power. This will bring about a new birth of peace, health, confidence, and strength. Old age fear is another mental poison. Old age is not the flight of years, but the dawn of wisdom, truth, and beauty. Loneliness is a lack of love. The loveless seek love, but the loving find love and friendship everywhere. The antidote is to fall in love with God's companions in your mind. Their names are goodwill, kindness, gentleness, peace, patience, understanding, and a sincere interest in others. Pour out God's love, a double potion of the Spirit, on those around you. Then you will banish loneliness immediately. God will give you a double reward also, and your good will be multiplied exceedingly. Your state of mind is your master. It is foolish to let that ignorant, blind, stupid monster, fear, push you around and direct your activities. Consider yourself too smart, too brilliant for that to happen. Why not become David? Play the role. It will pay you fabulous dividends. David means your faith in God is greater than fear. Fear is faith upside down. Fear is a conglomeration of dark and sinister shadows in the mind. In short, fear is faith in the wrong things. Become a spiritual giant. Call David forth, which is otherwise confidence in God. He is within you, so summon him. At the same time, you can call forth God's love. The children of faith in God are love, peace, gentleness, goodness, kindness, joy, balance, tranquility, and serenity. When you realize that there is but one power, one cause, the Maker, you give all your allegiance, devotion, and loyalty to that one. Then you become David, beloved of God. David, or spiritual awareness, had no armor or material protection, such as they used in those days. His power was his trust in God of his father, knowing that infinite intelligence knew only the answer to any problem. When you claim God's guidance and God's direction, you will always see the weak spots in the armor of Goliath or the person who threatens you with dire disaster. Actually, it is never the person who has power, but the thought in your own mind. The enemies are of thine own household, or your mind. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into the forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. 1 Samuel 17:49. The stone is your conviction of the one God, the one power. A stone is hard and impervious, which means that your faith or confidence in the spiritual power is unyielding and inflexible. In other words, you are unmoved, undisturbed, unyielding in your attitude, and you trust in the one, the beautiful, and the good. With this stone or mental conviction, you shatter the forehead of the giant called fear or Goliath. Fear is prone to brag, and in that lies its weakness. David, or love of truth, went forth with one idea: to prove the supremacy of this God power. When you go forth in the assurance that one with God is a majority, you will find yourself guided in every way and will become the inevitable victory. Don't fight fear with fear. Instead, meet it with the direct declaration of God's presence and power, which renders fear powerless. Say to yourself, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Psalm 27, 1 and 2. Are you afraid of some disease which has gripped you? You will notice that an erroneous thought in your mind can brag and boast of its pseudo-strength and intimidate you. Don't let these thoughts bully and browbeat you. Meet and subdue them now. Realize that all discord is manufactured by your own mind. It is not something you can catch on the outside. You can change your mind by realizing that the infinite healing presence which made your body is healing it now. As you do this consciously and knowingly, there will be a rearrangement of the thought patterns in your subconscious, and a healing will follow. Your present mental conviction determines your future and your experience. Meditate and pray upon positive and spiritual values. Claim your ideal, your solution, your health, or peace of mind upon the basis that the spirit within you is supreme and omnipotent. And by thinking of your solution or ideal with confidence and faith, you are conditioning your mind to the answer. Your mind is full of confidence or fear according to what you put into it. That's very true. Become David, the ruddy-faced shepherd boy, by partaking of and appropriating your divinity now. Get the insight to persevere and know that you will meet on life's journey only those experiences which you consciously and unconsciously send before you. Claim that God and His love go before you. This means the mood of confidence, faith, and trust in an almighty power which never faileth. As you do this, you are David going forth in might and right, clothed with the whole armor of God, preparing for yourself freedom, peace of mind, and happiness. The story in Samuel tells us that David cut the head off Goliath. This is what the spiritually minded person must do with all error, false belief, and superstitions in their mind. They must cremate, burn up, and consume all negative thoughts with the fire of divine love and right thinking. Goliath, or fear, is faith in a false god. You are David, properly equipped, when you realize you have faith in the one true God, the only power and presence. Recently, I was speaking to a husband and wife who were convinced that they would lose everything in a lawsuit which had dragged on for 5 years. They were very pessimistic. It seemed the other side was lying and, as the saying goes, trying to get something for nothing. Their lawyer told them that, in his opinion, they didn't stand a chance, and they were hypnotized by the suggestion. I explained to them that the statement that the lawyer made had no power, and his words could not bring to pass what he suggested. They realized that the only power the suggestion of their attorney had was their mental acceptance of it. They had accepted the suggestion and reacted accordingly, but the whole process took place in their own mind. They permitted their attorney to suggest the loss of the case to them. All the time, the power was in their own thought. They prayed as follows: God is absolute harmony and absolute justice. Therefore, the result is justice, harmony, and satisfaction to everybody. This was their simple prayer. Their premise was true, therefore the conclusion had to be true. Moreover, the beginning and the end were the same. If a man begins with God, he ends with God, or the good. The fruit is in the seed, the oak is in the acorn. There was a perfect harmonious solution to the lawsuit, and it was settled out of court. God is never late. The secret is in remaining loyal and faithful to that which you know to be true of God. Do not hesitate to draw the sword of truth like David. Become armed with spiritual reasoning and understanding of divine law and the eternal verities. Slay ruthlessly and without pity all negative thought patterns in your mind. Order them out in a dynamic, forceful way, and let in the light, love, and truth of God. Your spiritual awareness acts as a sword in that it severs you completely from the old way of thinking, race belief, other powers, malefic entities, and suppositional opposites to the one supreme, loving power. A woman said to me last week, "I am so mad I could kill May." It seems May had spread lies about her and had also tried to undermine her position she held. The woman permitted May to disturb her. In other words, she gave power to May, which May did not possess. The trouble was in her own thought life. May was not responsible for the way she was thinking about her. She realized suddenly that the whole trouble was in her own mental imagery and thought patterns. She let Goliath, or fear, run riot in her own mind, browbeating, intimidating, bullying, and frightening her, the whole process being one of her own creation. The young lady had good common sense, and she began to vent out all the bacteria of fear, hatred, and resentment in her mind, casting out these mental poisons and neutralizing the toxic effects with right thinking and right feeling. She placed God back on the throne of her mind, saying to herself, "I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Psalm 23, verse 41. Where God is, there can be no evil. And as she saturated her mind with the simple truth, God is, His presence fills my soul and rules my life, all the ill will vanished away. She positively refused to let some other woman give her migraine, indigestion, insomnia, anxiety, and the jitters. No one has that power. The power is in your own thought life. You are the one to determine how your thoughts move. Good and evil are the movements of your own mind. Do not permit thieves of fear, resentment, and inadequacy to restrict, bind, and hold you in the chains of bondage. The world we see is really the world we are. We see through the mental pictures and convictions of our subconscious mind. We color everything by our inner conditioning. Man projects his feelings, prejudices, and animosities onto people, and he forms a twisted, distorted picture of everything. Define your goal now. Where are you going? What is your objective? Get a definite plan or purpose. Then claim God is moving in your behalf. Whenever any negative suggestion quarrels with you relative to the goal in your mind, chop its head off incisively and decisively with your spiritual sword of reason, which tells you that there is but one spiritual power and that the God who gave you the desire is the same God who fulfills it. It is easy for the Father indwelling, he doeth the works. No one has the power to upset you or take away your faith and confidence in who he is. Raise your sights, let your vision be on the goal, the summit you wish to reach, and you will go to the place where your vision is. Become David by falling in love with God's truth and trust completely the infinite wisdom to show you the solution. Know that God in action in you brings you beauty, peace, divine right place, and harmony. David was the son of Jesse, which means the son of I am, or God. So are you the son of the infinite and the child of eternity. Draw close to your Father. He loves you and he cares for you. As you turn to him, he will turn to you. Then the dawn appears and the shadows flee away. The wonders of inner speech. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Psalm 19, verse 14. Wonders will happen in your life when your inner thought and feeling agree with the words of your mouth. Apropos of this, I should like to cite the following case. A man was involved in a long-delayed lawsuit which had cost him considerable time, legal fees, etc. He was exasperated, bitter, and hostile toward the opposition and his own attorneys. His inner speech, which represents his inner, silent, unexpressed thoughts, was more or less as follows. It's hopeless. This has gone on for 5 years. I'm being sold down the river. It's useless to go on. I might as well give up, etc. I explained to him that this inner speech was highly destructive and was undoubtedly playing a major role in prolonging the case. Job said, "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me." He changed his inner and outer speech completely when he fully understood what he'd been doing to himself. Actually, he'd been praying against himself. I asked him a single question as follows. What would you say if I told you this minute that there had been a perfect harmonious solution reached and the whole matter was concluded? He replied, I would be delighted and eternally grateful. I would feel wonderful knowing that the whole thing was finished. He agreed from that moment on to see to it that his inner speech, as Ouspensky pointed out, would agree with his aim. Regularly and systematically, he applied the following prayer, which I gave him. I give thanks for the perfect, harmonious solution which came through the wisdom of the all-wise one. He repeated this to himself frequently during the day, and when difficulties, delays, setbacks, arguments, doubt, and fear came into his mind, he would silently affirm the above truth. He ceased completely making all negative statements verbally and also watched his inner speech, knowing that his inner speech would always be made manifest. It is what we feel on the inside that is expressed, and you can apply that to anything in your life. We can say one thing with the mouth and feel another in our heart. It is what we feel that is reproduced on the screen of space. Hear that carefully. You cannot fool your subconscious mind. You cannot fool your thoughts. I don't care how many words you say. We must never affirm inwardly what we do not want to experience outwardly. The lips and the heart should agree. When they do, our prayer is answered. We must watch our inner psychological state. Some people mutter to themselves, are envious, jealous, seething with anger and hostility. Such a mental attitude is highly destructive and brings chaos, sickness, and lack in its train. You are familiar with the person who justifies himself. He tells himself that he has a perfect right to be angry, seek revenge, and try to get even. He is playing an old subconscious phonograph record which recites all the alibis, excuses, and justifications for his inner boiling state. In all probability, he does not know that such a mental state causes him to lose energy on a large scale, rendering him inefficient and confused. Man's negative inner speech is usually directed against some person. I talked to a man recently who told me that he had been treated shabbily, how he planned to get even, how hateful he was toward his former employer, etc. This man had ulcers of the stomach as a result of his inner turmoil and irritation. I explained to him that he'd been making very destructive impressions of anger and resentment on his subconscious mind, which always expresses what is impressed upon it. These destructive emotions must have an outlet, and they came forth as ulcers and neuroses in his case. He reversed his mental processes by releasing his former employer into the boundless ocean of God's love and wishing for him all the blessings of heaven. At the same time, he filled his mind with the truths of God by identifying himself with the infinite healing presence, realizing that the harmony, peace, and perfection of the Infinite One were saturating his mind and body, making him every bit whole. These spiritual vibrations permeating his mind were transmitted throughout his entire system, and the cells of his body took on a new spiritual tone, resulting in a healing of his discordant condition. The Bible says, "If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven." Who are these two? It means you and your desire, i.e., if you accept your desire mentally, the subconscious mind will bring it to pass, because your conscious and subconscious have agreed or synchronized. The two agreeing represent your thought and feeling, your idea and emotion. If you succeed in emotionalizing the concept, the male and female aspect of your mind have agreed, and there will be an issue or mental offspring, namely the answered prayer. It must be recalled that whatever we accept or feel is true is impregnated in our subconscious mind. The subconscious is the creative medium. Its tendency, as Troward points out, is always lifeward. The subconscious controls all your vital organs. It's the seat of memory and the healer of the body. The subconscious is fed by hidden springs and is one with the infinite intelligence and infinite power. It is very important to give the proper instruction to the subconscious. For example, if a man dwells on obstacles, delays, difficulties, and obstructions to his program, the subconscious will take as his request and proceed to bring difficulties and disappointments into his experience. Hence, feed the subconscious with premises which are true. What kind of inner talking goes on in you all the time, which is not being expressed audibly? It is your inner talking that the subconscious listens to and obeys. Your subconscious records your silent thought and feeling, and it is a very faithful recording machine. It records everything and plays the record back to you in the form of experiences, conditions, and events in life. You do not have to travel psychologically with fear, doubt, anxiety, or anger. There is no law which says that you have to travel with these assassins, murderers, intruders, and thieves in your mind. If you continue to invite such thieves and robbers into your mind, they rob you of your health, happiness, peace, and prosperity, and make you a physical and mental wreck. A woman had high blood pressure, accompanied by severe migraine attacks. The cause of all this was destructive inner speech. She felt that someone had not treated her right, and she became very negative toward that other person. She justified herself in being hostile and antagonistic toward the other person, allowing this condition to go on for weeks. And she was in a deep emotional stew. This negative attitude drained force from her, bringing about psychological changes in her bloodstream. She was ready, as she said, to explode with anger. This inner pressure, mounting tension, and seething hostility were the cause of her high blood pressure, plus the migraines. This woman began to practice the wonders of spiritual inner speech. She realized she'd been poisoning herself and that the other woman was in no way responsible for the way she was thinking or feeling about her. She was the only thinker in her universe, and she had been thinking vicious, destructive, malicious thoughts, which were poisoning her whole system. She began to comprehend and see that no one could possibly touch her except through her own thought or the movement of her own mind. All she had to do in order to practice the wonders of true spiritual inner speech was to identify with her aim. Her aim, or her goal, was peace, health, happiness, joy, serenity, and tranquility. She began to identify with God's river of peace and God's love flowing through her, like a shimmering river, soothing, healing, and restoring her mind and body. A few times a day for 15 minutes, she prayed silently. Her inner thoughts and feelings were as follows: God is love, and His love fills my soul. God is peace, and His peace fills my mind and body. God is perfect health, and His health is my health. God is joy, and His joy is my joy, and I feel wonderful. This kind of inner speech, which represented her inner thoughts of God and His qualities, brought about a complete sense of balance, poise, and harmony to her mind and body. When the thoughts of the other woman came to her mind, she would immediately identify with her aim, God's peace. She discovered the wonders of real inner speech, where her lips and heart united in identifying with the eternal truths of God, thereby rendering her impermeable to the impact of negative ideas and thoughts. How do you meet people in your mind? That is the acid test for the truth which sets you free. If you meet them and see the God in them, that is wonderful. Then you are practicing the wonders of inner speech from a constructive standpoint, because you are identifying with your aim, which is God or the good. Ouspensky pointed out that your inner speech should always agree with your aim or your goal. A young man had an aim, which was perfect health. However, his conscious mind reminded him that he had been sick with a blood disorder for years. He was full of anxiety, fear, and doubt. His relatives kept reminding him that it would take a long time and that he might never be healed. His subconscious was, of course, receiving all these negative impressions, and he could not get a healing. His inner speech had to agree with his aim. In other words, the two phrases of his mind had to synchronize and agree. This young man began to talk in a different tone to his subconscious. I told him, as he listened careful and avidly, to affirm slowly, quietly, lovingly, and with feeling several times a day as follows: The creative intelligence made my body and is creating my blood now. The healing presence knows how to heal and is transforming every cell of my body to God's pattern now. I hear and see the doctor telling me that I am whole. I have this picture now in my mind. I see him clearly. I hear his voice. And he is saying to me, John, you're healed. It's a miracle. I know this constructive imagery is going down into my subconscious mind, where it is being developed and brought to pass. I know my subconscious mind is in touch with the Infinite One, and its wisdom power are bringing my request to pass, in spite of all evidence to the contrary. I feel this, I believe it, and I am now identifying with my aim, perfect health. This is my inner speech morning, noon, and night. And again, you can apply that to any area of your body or anything that you are experiencing, whether mental, physical, emotional. Just switch out blood for whatever it is, and there's no harm in using what he's already given you. I do it myself with one from a previous book for my children. He repeated this prayer 10 or 15 minutes, 4 or 5 times daily, particularly prior to sleep. Due to habit, he found his mind running wild at times, fretting, fussing, worrying, recounting the verdict of others, and his previous repeated failings in the healing process. When these thoughts came to his mind, he issued the order, "Stop, I am the master. All thoughts, imagery, and responses must obey me. From now on, all my thoughts are on God and his wonderful healing power. This is the way I feed my subconscious. I constantly identify with God, and my inner thought and feeling is, 'Thank you, Father.' I do this 100 times a day or 1,000 times a day if necessary." And you don't necessarily have to do the prayer or whatever it is that you're wanting to do, for 10 to 15 minutes. Even if you did it many, many times a day, whenever you had a chance, do it wherever it suits you and however it suits you. The young man had a healing of the blood condition in 3 months. This was the wonder of real and true speech, wherein your inner speech is the same as it would be if you had already received the answer to your prayer. Believe that you have it now and you shall receive. He succeeded by repetition, prayer, and meditation to get his subconscious mind to agree with his desire. Then the creative power of God responded according to the agreement. "Thy faith hath made thee whole." A 67-year-old woman told me all the reasons she could not get married. Then she began to silently practice correcting her inner speech as follows. "I thank you, Father, for my perfect, ideal, divine companion." She repeated this to herself many times a day. After a while, her concept was impressed on the subconscious, and she met a retired pharmacist whom she married. They are ideally happy. Her inner speech was one with her aim. She spoke inwardly as though it had already happened. It had happened in the only place it could ever happen, namely in her own mind. Here is an example of wrong inner speech. A member of our organization was trying to sell a house for 3 years. She would decree, "I release this beautiful house to infinite mind. I know it is sold in divine order to the right person at the right price, and I give thanks now that it is so." This was her prayer, and there was nothing wrong with this. But she constantly neutralized it or undid her prayer by silently saying to herself, "Times are slow, the price is too high, people don't have that kind of money. What's wrong with me? Why isn't this house selling?" You can see that she was rendering her prayer null and void. So remember how I said at the beginning of this book that you pray for something once effectively and you correct yourself every time you find yourself with doubt, fear, anything negative that's related to the specific prayer, because you're simply undoing it every time you have a doubt or a fear, or you let other people's negativity in if it has something to do with that. That's something that we can all work on and be more conscious of, definitely, especially for things that obviously are important enough for you to take the time out to pray for. Why not make it more effective if you're going to pray for it? That's how I look at it. "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Her inner speech was very negative, and that was what the way she really felt about the whole matter. Therefore, that mental state was manifested for 3 years. So she was stuck in this for 3 years because she couldn't fool her subconscious with her words. She reversed the procedure, and every night and morning she would close her eyes for a few minutes and imagine the writer congratulating her on the sale. During the day, her inner speech was, "I give thanks for the sale of my house. The buyer is prospered and blessed because of this purchase." The repetition of this phrase was impressed on her subconscious mind and made manifest. A week later, a man who sat next to her in church bought her house and was very satisfied. She realized you can't go in 2 directions at the same time. Actually, yeah, because it's always going to take you in the way that you actually don't want to go. So it's always going to go in the direction you don't want it to go if you're kind of undoing what you're trying to do. "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer." I think we said that one earlier. Psalms 19, verses 14. So we will end with that. I apologize for the light. It seems to have moved around a bit. The next chapter, we're going to be talking about changing the feeling of I. So I'll show you in case that's kind of throwing you off right here. Changing the feeling of I. So we'll see what the author has to say in the next chapter. I hope that you found this chapter especially helpful. I know that I did. I find a lot of what he has to say helpful in many of the books I read. I always find something to grab onto and apply to my life. But I always think his books are the most helpful to the most people because they're things that we all deal with and things we can all relate to. So that was my book. Until next time, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, subscribe, and like. I would love to hear your thoughts if you have any, even suggestions for things you might want to hear in the future. And I will see you again very soon for the next chapter. Bye-bye.